The architecture of mental fortitude. True power begins where reaction ends, a timeless realization understood by the ancient Stoics long before modern distractions came to dominate our lives. True calm is not a passive retreat from conflict. Rather, it represents absolute precision within it. While the volatile individual rushes to respond, becoming a puppet to every passing whim and circumstance, the still mind observes, measures, and decides. Modern society frequently mistakes hyperstimulation for vitality, yet the endless commentary and instant opinions of today hide a deep, exhausting dependence on noise. True strength exists in the individual who can remain entirely unmoved while surrounded by collective panic, actively taking command of the world's tempo by refusing to be baited or bent. Securing the internal fortress sovereignty over oneself relies entirely on the ownership of one's attention. As Marcus Aurelius noted, you have power over your mind, not outside events, a principle that serves as a fundamental law of human psychology. Every modern disturbance, from social media algorithms to political outrage, acts as a deliberate test of this internal control. The disciplined mind filters what truly matters from mere background noise, utilizing clarity to separate perception from panic and preventing raw emotion from outrunning reason. When chaos strikes, society naturally shifts its gaze away from the loud and looks toward the one who does not flinch. By remaining a still axis in a spinning world, the Stoic naturally accumulates authority without ever needing to demand or declare it. The purest form of power aggression inherently spends its own energy quickly, whereas composure sustains itself indefinitely. A loud voice burns vital reserves to aggressively assert control, but a quiet voice commands by deliberately conserving its internal power. This strategic containment transforms emotional impulse into sound judgment and condenses potential into raw focus. Just as an archer draws a deep breath before release to ensure maximum accuracy, the Stoic waits patiently for the right moment to act, choosing precision over reckless force. When adversity dissolves into data rather than escalating into an unmanageable storm, unnecessary suffering is eliminated, transforming what others call pain into useful practice. Strategic superiority. Over-provocation. Stillness remains entirely unreadable to those who wish to exploit external reactions for leverage. Anger is inherently predictable, and outrage is easily manipulated, but a calm presence effectively ends a conflict before it begins by flatly denying it fuel. In leadership, this measured steadiness serves as a stabilizing anchor for families, teams, and entire societies that naturally crave certainty. The mind in complete control of itself becomes an impregnable fortress that cannot be invaded by simple insults, passing trends, or superficial temptations. It views control not as the suppression of emotion, but as the precise containment and allocation of emotional currency. The economy of mind. Every raw emotion spends energy, drawing heavily from a strictly finite reserve of internal strength. Most people are not exhausted by physical labor, but rather by the reckless waste of their attention on empty opinions and noise. The Stoic treats attention as valuable capital, systematically closing internal leaks by budgeting feelings and choosing not to waste breath on those who refuse to listen. To deliberately withhold a response is to preserve absolute control, ignoring distraction without fighting it. By recognizing that anger has no yield, envy has no profit, and outrage returns no interest, the disciplined mind invests its finite resources strictly into clear decisions and purposeful creation. Silence as preservation. Silence is never empty. It is a vital form of preservation, where the mind actively replenishes what external noise consumes. The apparent indifference of a Stoic is actually the slow accumulation of unstoppable momentum that outpaces frantic speed through patience. In decision-making, a reactive mind consistently makes errors because it operates out of immediate confusion, whereas a calm mind thoroughly views the full board before making a move. This deliberate positioning keeps perspective high above the turbulence of raw impulse, transforming sadness into useful reflection, joy into stable gratitude, and anger into the necessary fuel for decisive action. The rebellion of calm. In an era driven by outrage culture, remaining completely calm becomes a rare and revolutionary form of rebellion. Media platforms are purposefully designed to weaponize emotion, converting your attention into currency because outrage is highly profitable while stillness is not. By refusing to participate in the cycle of public validation, the Stoic effectively sabotages the machinery of manipulation. When you master your perception, external manipulation fails entirely because you have removed their leverage. The mind that strictly decides what enters its territory is the mind that successfully rules itself, choosing to build internal fortifications rather than wasting strength defending illusions. Precision over performance. The discipline of indifference is not a cold detachment from life, but rather an engagement with surgical precision. The Stoic does not hate the noise of the world. They simply understand its heavy cost and choose to protect logic from frenzy. Stillness communicates an unchallengeable strength because it cannot be bought, coerced, or provoked by external actors. It speaks a higher language of command, altering the behavior of those around it, much like a heavy stone naturally shapes the flow of a rushing river. When the internal state remains steady, the external world is forced to take shape around it. The workbench of command. True clarity allows decisions to become inevitable rather than rushed, letting the quiet mind perceive deep patterns before others even notice a shift. Silence refines thought, clearing away the emotional fog to reveal the precise line dividing truth from illusion. In this quiet workshop of command, every single word is born out of strict necessity rather than sudden impulse. This absolute restraint creates immediate precision, forcing others to reveal their true intentions against the sharp contrast of Stoic silence. By detaching from the baseline need to respond, the individual ensures that no part of the self leaks into chaos. Leadership through presence. Like the vast ocean at dawn, the Stoic mind remains completely still on the surface while harnessing immense controlled force underneath. In moments of widespread panic, a composed individual is sought out instinctively because their equilibrium reorders a chaotic environment without a word. Stillness functions as active construction rather than avoidant retreat, laying solid foundations exactly where untrained minds see nothing but ruin. It completely removes interference from judgment, making what others call intuition simply clarity, unhindered by panic. Within the inner soul, the Stoic maintains an accessible chamber where strategy forms and strength naturally solidifies. The intelligence of patience. A quiet mind cannot be easily deceived because it refuses to be hurried by the manufactured haste that manipulation requires. Patience stands as the ultimate intelligence, the rare ability to wait without losing focus, while the unpredictable gradually becomes predictable. Stoic choices carry the weight of full awareness, ensuring that every step taken actively advances order rather than matching the frantic rhythm of the crowd. The unbroken stone stands firm, not because it actively fights the wind, but because it never attempts to move with it. In solitude, the mind regularly polishes its perception until it reflects reality entirely free from emotional distortion. The vessel and the acid. As Seneca famously warned, anger is an acid that can do far more damage to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. Every ungoverned emotion subtly corrodes the mind, promising power but ultimately delivering vulnerability and distorted perception. The Stoic avoids this internal corrosion through steady observation, allowing raw feelings to pass without granting them the authority to dictate actions. True strength is measured by long-term control rather than temporary intensity. The disciplined individual conquers through stability, allowing the tempest of external opinions to pass harmlessly overhead. The enemy of calm anticipation acts as a primary enemy of internal calm, causing the imagination to manufacture losses before they ever arrive. Fear is frequently a misuse of human creativity, painting dark, hypothetical futures and wasting precious energy on pain that does not exist. The Stoic systematically corrects this illusion by returning focus to the present moment, the only space where true control resides. By flatly refusing to suffer in advance, the mind remains efficient, clear, and perfectly proportioned. This realistic perspective views danger as data rather than doom, and insults as meaningless noise rather than injuries. Denying permission to provoke, Epictetus taught that if someone succeeds in provoking you, you must realize that your own mind is complicit in the provocation. Every single emotional reaction requires your internal permission, and the Stoic's primary task is to firmly deny that request. Provocation is merely an offer to surrender control, which the disciplined mind systematically declines. Instead of wasting energy asking why an insult was uttered, the Stoic looks inward to ask why the comment was able to reach them. This interception allows you to observe a forming reaction and let it dissolve entirely before it manifests as movement. The guardrails of speech. Zeno of Citium wisely reminded us that it is far better to trip with the feet than with the tongue, as unmeasured words rapidly spend stored strength. Because speech is a permanent extension of thought, the Stoic guards their tongue with the same rigor they apply to guarding their mind. Silence frequently achieves what reckless words destroy, serving as a powerful tool for clarity rather than an emotional release. Precision is valued over mindless expression, keeping the soul clean of regret and entirely free from hasty reactions. Through intentional silence, observation sharpens and energy collects. The paradox of surrender. A distinct paradox exists within control. Staying completely still under an external attack may look like weakness to the untrained eye, but it represents power in its purest form. This is because the path that descends into silence simultaneously ascends into complete mastery over oneself. When an individual stops fighting against reality, they synchronize with it, turning the downward pull of raw emotion into an upward rise in awareness. Serenity sharpens vision, revealing core principles where others drown in variables. This distilled confidence communicates immense strength without speech and absolute power without posturing. Bodily synchronization. The body obeys physical rhythm, and the mind naturally follows the body. The Stoic utilizes deep, controlled breathing as a tactical anchor to return to equilibrium whenever fear tightens or anger begins to rise. This physical discipline reclaims the natural tempo of existence, separating those who react quickly from those who decide wisely. Every slow, deliberate breath is a physical reclamation of power and ownership over your thoughts. By forcing their physiology to obey their will, the Stoic projects a heavy gravitational presence that causes chaotic environments to stabilize around them. The crown of mastery. Ultimately, stillness is the final evolution of discipline, the exact moment where composure ceases to be an effort and becomes your default nature. An unshaken mind commands deep respect beyond argument, bending the room to its rhythm the way water naturally shapes itself to stone. It signals that an individual has nothing to prove, nothing to fear, and nothing to chase. This absolute integrity produces a presence that demands reflection from everyone it touches. The wind of circumstance will always spend itself, but the mountain remains standing. Similarly, the Stoic rules their universe by remaining the still center of gravity.